What have you learnt about technologies from the process of constructing this product?
For this project, we wanted to make our work as professional as possible. In order to achieve the maximum quality we could, we used a Canon 1300D, a DSLR with 18 megapixels. We also used a tripod in order to avoid shakiness with our footage.
Using the tripod, I have learnt that it is essential to be creative about where you place it. This would have a significant impact on the shot, whether it's by tilting it or by shortening the legs of the tripod. The tripod had a major impact on our shots and how they turned out. This is because it provided us with the important stability we required for our establishing shots.
This project seemed overwhelming at first to edit, as no one in our group had no previous experience of Final Cut Pro. We overcame that issue by learning the shortcut keys and watching YouTube tutorials on how to do the things we couldn't.
The blade and select tool proved useful as they allowed us to apply precision with our work. For example, one of my scenes required a focus pull, and in order to achieve this, we had to rotate the focus ring, which made a noise we did not wish to obtain. This led us to recording twice, once with the focus pull and once without. We would then be able to detach the audio from the clip without the ring rotating and then applying it to the shot with the focus pull.
Final Cut Pro became less challenging the more we used it, as it was very user-friendly. In order to create a retro ident for our film, I used After Effects to make it. Again, YouTube tutorials had a key impact on the ident and how it turned out. In addition to that, I used Photoshop to add and edit the name placed on the Sixth Form Centre. I added a custom name to replace the original sign, Woodbridge Academy. One key edit that affected the presentation of our work was my attempt to emulate the slight shakiness in 1980s films. I applied the effect handheld and adjusted the scales in order to make it as realistic as possible. In order to enhance this, I also added a filter named Film Grain, of which I also adjusted the scales in order to create a subtle look.
I tried to limit the amount of new editing techniques which I used within the film opening, as this would compromise the 1980s look we were trying to achieve. Also, when finalizing the film opening, I compiled the items on my timeline by making it into a compound clip. This would later benefit me by making it easier and less complicated to apply filters, as it would be extremely time consuming to drop the filter on each individual item. The select tool was very beneficial towards the amount of time it would take me to edit. The blade and positioning tool were also very useful in manners of speeding the process of collating and matching the preferred footage on the timeline in Final Cut Pro. During the clock scene, I implemented a non-diegetic sound, which was a clock ticking. This was because we were not able to achieve this whilst recording. I used the tools available in Final Cut Pro in order to make this as realistic as possible. I did this through trial and error in order for the sound effect and the clock's hand to be simultaneous.